Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 41. A, top of the page with the words Amar Rabba. Amar Rabba machloikes b'shel kefarim. Aval krachim divrei hakol mutarim. My time lenoi avdi lahu. Rabba says the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis is only with regard to statues that are erected in villages. But with regard to those that are erected in cities, all agree that they are permitted. That is, it is permitted to derive benefit from them. Not, of course, not to worship them. But okay, what is the reason? It is because they were fashioned for ornamental purposes and not for worship. Wow. Okay. V'dichetarim mikeleman yamal lenoi kavdi lehu techvarim vadai lemif lechinu avdi lehu. The Gemara asks, but with regard to those erected in villages, is there anyone who says that they are fashioned for ornamental purposes? Those in villages were certainly fashioned for idol worship. How then can the rabbis maintain that such statues are permitted? Ella yitma hachitma amarav machlokes b'shel kerachim aval b'shel kefarim divrei hakol asirim. The Gemara answers, rather, if such a distinction was stated, this is what was stated. Rabba says that the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis is only with regard to statues that are erected in cities, where they may have been fashioned simply for ornamental purposes. But with regard to those erected in villages, all agree that they are used for idol worship and are therefore forbidden. וחכמים אומרים אינן אסרים וכולי. מקל שרודה את עצמו תחת כל העולם כולו כמקל. ציפור שתופס את עצמו תחת כל העולם כולו כציפור. כדור שתופס את עצמו תחת כל העולם כולו ככדור. The Mishnah teaches and the rabbis say the only statues that are forbidden are any statue that has its hand in its hand a staff, or a bird, or an orb, as these are indications that the statue is designated for idolatry. The Gemara explains that each of these items symbolizes the statue's supposed divinity, indicating its dominion over the world. A staff symbolizes dominion as the idol rules itself under the entire world, meaning it rules the entire world like one rules over an animal with a staff. A bird symbolizes dominion as the idol grasps itself under the entire world, meaning it grasps the entire world as one grasps a bird in its hand. And an orb symbolizes dominion as the idol grasps itself under the entire world, meaning it grasps the entire world as one grasps a ball in his hand. Tana hosif aleim sayev v'tara v'tabas. The sages taught in Tosefta 6:1 that they added the following to the list of items that, when added to a statue, indicate that it is worshipped as an idol: a sword in his hand, a crown on his head, and a ring on his finger. Sayev, a sword. The Gemara explains why these items were initially believed to be insignificant and were later understood as symbolizing idol worship. With regard to a statue holding a sword, the sages initially thought that this merely indicates that it is a statue of a bandit. But in the end, they reasoned that it symbolizes the notion that the idol has the power to kill itself under the whole world, meaning it has the power to kill the entire world. Atara, a crown, with regard to a crown. Tabat, Mikar Savo Ishtayama Be'alma, Ulibasof Savo Shechotem et Atzmo Tachat Kol Ha'ulam Kulo Lemita. With regard to a crown, the sages initially thought that it is merely a woven wreath, but in the end they reasoned that it is like a crown, the crown of a king. With regard to a ring, the sages initially thought that this remedy symbolizes the barrier of a signet ring, Ishtayama, but in the end they reasoned that it is symbolic of the idol's supposed ability to seal its fate under the whole world, meaning to seal the fate of the entire world for death. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Kule Tana Afilu Tzero Afilu Kesam. The Mishnah teaches that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says it is prohibited to derive benefit even from any statue that has any item whatsoever in its hand. The sages taught in the Baraita it is prohibited to derive benefit from a statue even if it is merely holding a stone or even a twig. Boy Rav Ashi tafas b'yaditoya mao. Holding number 2? That's weird. Rav Ashi asked, what if an idol is grabbing excrement in his hand? What's the halacha? Mi amrinan kuli alma zilu bi'ape kitzoah. This is weird. Wow. Something came up about this recently. Oy dilma homi udizila pe kuli alma getzoah teku. Because I was just reading a story about Onkelos in Gittin 57 about burning in the excrement, right? And then this comes up today. My goodness. Wow. There must be a morning Torah Lishma. That's what the Maharal says, I think, right? Maharal of Prague says these things come. It's like, wow, how did that happen? Okay. Rav Ashi raises a dilemma. If the idol is grasping excrement in its hand, what's the halacha? Is this meant to honor the statue, indicating that it is an object of idol worship? Do we say that the statue is forbidden as it indicates that the entire world is inferior, like excrement, or perhaps does it indicate that the idol itself is inferior to the entire world, like excrement? If an idol is holding excrement in its hand, is it asur b'hana? The Gemara concludes this question shall stand unresolved. So it's another teku. So I think this would be the 200th teku. I believe this is the 200th teku. See here, 199. Kuf Tzadi Bet was Avodah Zarah 14. I think that Take. This is the second teku we had in Tractate de Avodah Zarah. So Bepashtis. Bepashtis Teku Reish 200th Teku, I think. Should be. I think we only had one Teku so far. So this is probably the 200th Teku in Shas. To do this one. Today's a 2 Teku day. Take 2 for the second Teku. And this one happens to be about number 2. In a statue holding number 2. Yeah. If a statue is holding number 2, are you allowed to have benefit from it? Do we say that it's a degradation, or do we say it's something that shows it has power? We don't know. We have to wait till the Messiah comes. Elijah, Messiah. Okay, let's continue. Nu Mishnah. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah weiter, Hamois Yeshiva Salami, Harelu Mitorim, Matze Tabnis Yad, und Tabnis Regel, Harelu Asarim, Mibnei Shekayot Zebanevad. In the case of one who finds indefinable fragments of statues, these are permitted, meaning one may derive benefit from them. If one found an object in the figure of a hand or the figure of a foot, these are forbidden as objects similar to those are worshipped. Now that's the whole Mishnah. We continue on with the Gemara. Sagt die Gemara, Shmuel says, it is permitted to derive benefit even from fragments of objects that have been sold, that have been seen used in idol worship. The Gemara asks, but didn't we learn in the Mishnah that fragments of nondescript statues are permitted? This indicates that it is permitted to derive benefit from fragments of idols that were known to be worshipped. Hu hadin afilu shiva vayazare v'adiktan shiva tzalam mishum k'boyim in the Mishnah Sofer. Matatav nisyad tav nisregel ha'eglu asurin v'fnei shekayot zebanevad. The Gemara answers, the Mishnah means that fragments of statues are permitted, and the same is true even of fragments of objects of idol worship. And that which is taught in the Mishnah, fragments of statues, are not meant to exclude fragments of idols. Rather, this expression is used because the Mishnah sought to teach in the last clause, if one found an object in the figure of a hand or in the figure of a foot, these are forbidden, even if they are not known to be objects of idol worship. Objects similar to those are worshipped. If the first clause in the Mishnah had referred to fragments of idols, it would have been inferred to the latter clause that was referring to specifically to the figure of a hand or a foot that was known to be worshipped, and that otherwise such figures would not be forbidden. Tanan Matzatav Nisyatav Israel Harayim Asurin. We learned in the Mishnah, if one found an object in the figure of a hand or in the figure of a foot, these are forbidden as objects similar to those are worshipped. The Gemara asks why. Amai. And now we turn to 41b, top of the page, with the words but aren't they fragments of idols which something just came to me. If it's true that the last Teiku before this one was on Avodah Zarah 14, that's amazing, because 14 and this is 41. It's the same digits. And I think if you count from 41 is the 14th prime number, or maybe you have to count from 2. I forgot, but 41 is definitely, I'm pretty sure 41 is the 14th prime number, depending if you count 1 as a prime or not. So that's really interesting. But aren't they fragments of idols which are permitted according to Shmuel? The Gemara answers that Shmuel interpreted the Mishnah as follows. It is referring to a case where these objects that are in the figure of a hand or a foot are standing on their pedestals, which shows that they were designed. They were destined to be designed. They were designed to be destined. They were standing on their pedestal, which shows they were designed this way initially, and not merely fragments. Itmar, we learned, it was stated, Avodah Zarah shenishtabra me'aleo, Rabbi Yochanan Omar asuro, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omar muteres. It was stated with regard to objects of idol worship that broke by themselves. Rabbi Yochanan says it is prohibited to derive benefit from them. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says it is permitted. And Rabbi Yochanan Amar asuro dehal obatala. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish אמר, מותרס. מסתום פתאום לבד למרמה. היא נפשה לו הצלה. להוא גברא מצלה לה. The Gemara explains the size of the dispute. Rabbi Yochanan says that it is prohibited as its owner did not revoke its status as an object of idol worship. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says that it is permitted as the owner presumably revoked its status as an object of idol worship, having said to himself, if the idol could not save even itself from harm, can it save that man, meaning myself? Is Rabbi Yochanan Shimon Lakish V'roish dagon u'shtei kapos yadav kerutos v'gama u'chitziv al kein lo yidrechu kohanei dagon. V'gama. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish from the passage in the book of Samuel recounting the downfall of the Philistine god Dagon. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord, and the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands lay cut off upon the threshold. Only the trunk of Dagon was left to him. 1 Samuel 5:4. And from the next verse, it seems that Dagon's worshippers accorded it honor despite its destruction, as it is written, therefore the priests of Dagon and anyone who comes into Dagon's house do not tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod until this day. 1 Samuel 5:5. Evidently, when an idol breaks, its worshippers do not stop worshiping it. Okay. Amar lo. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said to him, is there proof from there? Can you bring a proof in this case? There, the reason people did not tread on the threshold of Dagon is that they had abandoned their worship of the Dagon, and would instead worship the threshold upon which Dagon was found. As they stated this reasoning, the spirit of Dagon has left the Dagon idol, and instead it came and rested upon the threshold. Rabbi Yochanan raised another objection to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish from the Mishnah. In the case of one who finds fragments of statues, these are permitted. This indicates that fragments of known objects of idol worship are forbidden. Lo tema shivrei avodah Zarah serin elahema hatzilam matzman serin. Rabbi Shimon Lakish replied, do not say that the indication is that fragments of objects of idol worship are forbidden. Rather say that the indication is that full statues themselves are forbidden, and the unattributed Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who in the previous Mishnah prohibits any statue as it is possible that it is worshipped annually. Rabbi Yochanan min Rabbi Meir nishmalu Rabbanan la Rabbi Meir tzelam asurin shere tzelam mutarin leRabbanan avodah Zarah nami yesura u'shvorehu mutarin. The Gemara asks, but how does Rabbi Yochanan refute the following logic? From the opinion of Rabbi Meir, one can learn a detail with regard to the opinion of the rabbis. Doesn't Rabbi Meir say that statues are forbidden while fragments of statues are permitted? From this, one can derive that this is true according to the rabbis as well. With regard to objects of idol worship, the object itself is forbidden, but its fragments are permitted. Hachi hashta, hachi hashta, hachi hashta, hachi hashta. The Gemara rejects this comparison. How can these cases be compared? Hasam emar avadum, emar lo avadum, bim timse lo mal avadum, emar bitlum, avodah zarah v'ala avadua, v'emar levetelua, avisavek v'adai, v'ein savek motzim midei v'adai. The Gemara rejects this comparison. How can these cases be compared? There is a case there in the case of statues, the fragments are permitted because there is room to say that people worship them. And there is also room to say that people do not worship them. Even if you say that people worship them, there's room to say that their owners subsequently revoke them. This is not comparable to an object of idol worship, which people certainly worshipped. And who is to say its owner certainly revoked it? It is a conflict between an uncertainty as to whether or not it was revoked and a certainty that it was worshipped. And the principle is that an uncertainty does not override a certainty. Ein safek motzi midei v'adai. That's a good, I think, site is a shas. Let's see what the gematria that is. Ein safek motzi is 533. 533. Ein safek motzi midei v'adai is equal to 533. Oh, to continue. Hold on. Okay. Ein safek motzi midei v'adai. As the principle is that an uncertainty does not override a certainty. Certainly. Into the realms of the uncertainty. Ein safek motzi midei v'adai. Tanya. Chaver shemes v'niach migura milei peros. Afilu him b'nei yoman ha'en mecheskas mitukanin. The Gemara asks, and does an uncertainty not override a certainty? But isn't it taught bright in the case of a chaver who died and left his storehouse? A chaver is a learned person. A chaver who died and left the storehouse filled with produce, even if the produce was there only that day, it has the presumptive status of produce that was richly prepared, meaning it was properly tithed. This is due to the presumption that the chaver tithed the produce himself or instructed others to do so. The Gemara infers in here, in this case, the produce was certainly untithed at the outset, and there is uncertainty whether the chaver tithed it. And there is uncertainty whether he did not. Despite this conflict, the uncertainty whether it was tithed comes and overrides the certainty that it was untithed produce. Hasam vadai uvadai devadai asrinu. Ki Rabbi Chanina chozah, Demachani chozah, chazak alacha v'sheina moitzida v'sheina metukan tavas yado. The Gemara rejects this claim. There, in that case, conflict is between certainty and certainty. As the chaver certainly tithed the produce. The presumption is in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Chanina chozah. As Rabbi Chanina chozah says, there is a presumption with regard to a chaver that he does not release an item from his possession that is not richly prepared. And if you wish, say, instead, perhaps the produce did not initially have the status of untithed produce, and therefore the conflict is between uncertainty and uncertainty. Adam al tevuato machnisa bamotz shelah
כדי שתהא בהם תוחלת ופטורה מן המעשר.
This is because it is possible that there was never an obligation to tithe the produce, as the Chaver may have acted in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehoshua, who says that a person can employ artifice to circumvent obligations incumbent upon him in dealing with his grain, and bring it into his courtyard in its chaff, so that his animal may eat from it, and this grain is exempt from tithes. Although the obligation to tithe produce that has been fully processed applies even to animal fodder, it is permitted to feed one's animal untithed produce that has not yet been fully processed. In light of this halachah, it is possible that the produce in the storehouse of the chaver never needed to be tithed. Consequently, this case is a conflict between two uncertain factors, as it is uncertain whether or not the owner was obligated to tithe the produce in the first place, and even if he was required to do so, it is uncertain whether or not he tithed it. And Gemara wants to still attack that principle of Ein Safek Motzi V'Vadeh. Bring another case. Okay, and is it so that an uncertainty does not override a certainty? But isn't it taught in a Raita that Rabbi Yehuda said there was an incident involving a maidservant